Well, welcome back to the news today. This is One on One. Well, the term Jubu was first brought into wide circulation in 1994 with the publication of the book The Jew and the Lotus. Well, in some cases, the term can refer to individuals who practice both traditions. In other cases, quote-unquote Jewish is no more than an ethnic designation where the person's main religious practice is actually Buddhism. Well, Tenzin Thekchok, an Israeli dentist by trade, became a Tibetan Buddhist monk and is one of the people who could be defined as a Jubu. Well, thank you for joining us here, Mr. Thekchok. I appreciate your time here. First, straightforward, how did you become a Buddhist?
Well, there's one very simple ceremony that one goes when one decides to become a Buddhist. It's called to take refuge. You go to a certain Lama, he asks you to take refuge, and you go through the ceremony and you become officially a Buddhist. But it's not as simple as that to go through a ceremony. You have to understand certain ideas that define you in the way of the view, in the way of your philosophy as a Buddhist.
Tell us shortly, what's the difference between a Buddhist monk and someone, perhaps a regular Buddhist?
I think we have to go back maybe 2,500 years or more to the time of the Buddha, when this ascetic person realized how things really are. He achieved nirvana or enlightenment and started to teach the doctrine, the Dharma. And followers of his became monks. And as they became more and more and misbehaved, there was set a whole set of precepts or vows. And to become a monk, you have to take on the vows. So this is how you become a monk. You take upon yourself the vows, which actually protect you. The vows
are there. A further level of commitment as someone who lives a Buddhist ideology. Well, the book we mentioned here in the introduction here, A Jew and the Lotus, I assume you're familiar with this book. The author writes there that throughout his time and his journey in Tibet, that actually he found a renewed appreciation for living his Jewish roots. I wanted to ask you what that means to you.
I have absolutely no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I grew up as a secular Israeli. I had very, very little connection with the Jewish religion. Actually, I find the term Jubu a little bit problematic.
Certainly.
Because, you know, tell me what is a Jew, and I will tell you if one can be both. I think it's impossible.
So you haven't found any sort of grand challenge in a way reconciling your varying identities?
Absolutely not. It's like going home.
Well, tell us a little bit about that journey home for you, your journey towards Buddhism. Is it something that you ever expected or went looking for?
Absolutely
did you find
not.
it?
I just stumbled into it. Actually, a patient of mine recommended that I go to hear a Buddhist nun that came to Israel in '97, Tenzin Thekchok, and I went to hear. I went to a weekend with her. I said, finally, you know, someone is telling the truth. Finally, it is absolutely, this is how things are. This is my experience as well.
Do you find any connection with your professional life as well as a dentist? Have you found a way that the two worlds combine for you, or in a way are they separate aspects of your life?
You know, it's my life. It's the same. There's no negation. There's no contradiction. There's no. I mean, if I was a butcher, then there would have been a problem.
Okay.
But being a dentist is okay.
Well, I guess some people may argue that there may be a connection between those two fields, but no, we'll not come after you about your profession here by any means. So you find no, in a way, challenge in terms of reconciling the fact that you're born as an Israeli Jew, now follow the path of Buddhism. For you, do you think of Buddhism as a religion in your life, or is it more of a philosophy or a way of life?
Look, I'm dressed as a monk, and it has all the flavors of religion. But it's basically it's like a laboratory of psychology. It's working on your mind. changing the way you see things, changing, understanding how the universe exists.
How long has that process gone on in your life?
I would say 11 years.
11 years. So 11 years ago, you traveled, you were in the Tibetan regions and...
No. Everything is Israeli, made
found
in
Israel.
Made in Israel.
Have you
yes.
taken a trip to the Buddhist regions of Tibet?
I've never been to Tibet.
Oh.
I've been to northern India, to Dharamsala, Ladakh, but no.
Did you find that enhanced your connection at all, or did you find that to be something different?
Definitely, absolutely, definitely.
I also want to ask you about the community that you're perhaps a part of here in Israel. You're not the only person who identifies as a Buddhist and lives that lifestyle here.
True.
How large is that community, and how do they get by here?
Numbers are very difficult, but there's a lot of Buddhism in Israel. There's a website, I think Buddhism-Israel, and you can see how many activities, how many groups, how many teachers, visits. It's amazing.
Do you interact with the community on a regular basis?
Yes. I have a study group. We meet once a week. It belongs to an international organization, the FPMT, Foundation of Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition. Also connected to another group where I started, Dharma Friends of Israel. And yeah.
Do you find challenges posed by living in the state of Israel as a Buddhist?
Not as a Buddhist, but as a monk. I mean,
not
you
one
can
of the
imagine.
main,
You can
not
imagine
one of the mainstream
walking,
forms here: Judaism, Christianity, Islam, the things that the religions that have most of the focus here in Israel.
Well, when the Pope comes to Israel and there's an announcement on the radio or television that all the major religions came to welcome him, and there was no representative of the Buddhist tradition, religion, I found it a little bit problematic.
Is there a push from within your community
No,
for greater
absolutely
recognition or
No.
involvement?
No.
I also understand that there are no formal Buddhist temples in Israel. Why do you think that is?
Maybe a matter of numbers. I think it has also to do with embassies and representatives of the Buddhist countries. I think they're told not to build anything because there are a lot of Thai people who are Buddhists, a lot of people from Sri Lanka who are now in Israel, and I'm sure they would be very happy to have a place of worship. But one is not allowed to, to engage in what is the word?
Israel is certainly a multicultural place.
Absolutely.
With many religions represented.
Yes.
It strikes me as odd that there wouldn't be a formal Buddhist temple here as well. Well, for example, when the Dalai Lama has come to visit Israel,
Yes.
has there been any official representation that's from the Buddhist community that's greeted him or been a part of those visits?
Yes, absolutely.
Like
Yes.
From the Israeli side, not just
Yes.
just government, but from the Buddhist community.
The Dalai Lama, when he came to Israel 4 times. When he came as a guest of the political aspect of his life, being the leader of the Tibetan people, and the ones that invited him are the Israeli Tibetan Friendship Association, and they invited him. As such, you can imagine the Chinese made every effort they could
to politicize the issue, of course.
The people of the government will not meet him.
So basically, you find yourself living in harmony in Israel as a Buddhist, no conflict with your Jewish identity, and
I
actually part of a community.
I don't have a Jewish identity.
Well, you certainly have
the most I will admit to is that I'm ethnically Jewish.
Thank you very much for your time here today, Tenzin Thekchok. I appreciate your time and very interesting. Well, thank you. That wraps up One on One. I'm David Matlin here from the Jaffa Port in Israel, and thanks for being with us.